pearl, that a prince is well content to give a circle of gold to wear. Boldly, I say, all Orient brought forth none precious like to her. So comely in every ornament, so slender her sides, so smooth they were. Ever my mind was bound and bent to set her apart without a peer. In a garden of herbs I lost my dear. Through grass to ground away it shot. Now, lovesick, the heavy loss I bear of that secret pearl without a spot. Since in that spot it sped from me so, often I watched and wished for that grace that once was wont to banish woe and bless with brightness all my days, that clutches my heart in cruel throe and causes my blood to rage and race. Yet sweeter songs could no man know than silence taught my ear to trace. And many there came to think of her face, with cover of clay so coldly fraught. O earth, you mar a gem past praise, my secret pearl without a spot. That spot with spice must spring and spread, where riches rotted in narrow room, blossoms white and blue and red, lift now a light and blaze of noon. Flower and fruit could never fade where pearl plunged deep in earthen tomb, for the seed must die to bear the blade, that the wheat may be brought to harvest home. Good out of good and to all and some, such a seed could never have come to naught, nor spice and splendor spare to bloom from that precious pearl without a spot. To that especial spot I heed, and entered in that same garden green, in August at a festive tide, when corn is cut with scythe edge keen. On the mound where pearl went tumbling wide, leaf vied with leaf in shade and sheen. Gillyflower and ginger on every side, and peonies peerless blooming between. But fairer yet, and all unseen, was the fragrance that my senses sought. There, I know, is the dear demesne of my precious pearl without a spot. Before that spot with head inclined, I stretched my hand in stark despair. My heart lamented, deaf and blind, though reason reconciled my care. I mourned my pearl so close confined, with thoughts in throng contending there. Comfort of Christ might come to mind, but wretched would not forbear. I fell upon that flower bed fair, such odor seized my brain distraught. I slipped into slumber unaware on that precious pearl without a spot. That, friends, is the first part of the poem Pearl by the same poet that wrote Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, whom I hope that some of you have read along with and enjoyed so far. And if you still haven't gotten to it, that's okay. My part 1 video will still be there. My part 2 will be up at the end of this month, and it will still be there when you're done. So never fear. I don't want there to be any pressure felt for anybody. But today I am reviewing this book. So the translation by Marie Borroff. It's a verse translation. And so it contains 3 of the 4 poems from the Gawain poet, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Patience, and Pearl. So it's missing cleanness, which I don't know why it's omitted. I mean, this is not a long volume. It's 200 pages. Not even 200, just shy of it. Yeah, 192. With some suggestions for further reading. I always enjoy when books have that at the end, so that you can go in and check out some other volumes. So it recommends some interesting ones. Art and Tradition in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, some critical essays on Gawain and Pearl, stylistic and metrical study of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I mean, it's got some interesting books there. So if you're interested in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, or the poet in general, just like I am, there are definitely some things that you can pick up to read a little bit more about beyond the companion to the Gawain poet. So in this volume, these are all in translation, so there's no facing page, which is something I enjoy finding, where it's got the original on one side and then the translated on the other. I don't remember when I was looking at picking this up if I was specifically thinking that it had that or not. But I had heard that Marie Borroff's translation was a good one, and I would agree. As a whole, it is a good translation. Not the best translation. So far, my gold standard is Tolkien's translation, but he only did Gawain and Pearl. He did not do Patience or Cleanness, at least not in any published format. So if you have the Tolkien copy, you've got two of the four poems written by this guy, and they are fantastic. The things I like about this book, beyond the poems themselves, they all have good lengthy introductions, which is pretty common for things like this, where it's going to go through and it'll talk about the story, and then it'll talk about the meter and the rhyme and the style in which the poet was writing this one, and it differs on all of them. And then we get here to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's the story of Gawain and King Arthur's court going off to get repaid his blow in kind that he dealt to the Green Knight on Christmas Day. Patience is a retelling of the story of Jonah and the whale, which I didn't know that. I don't know that. I'm sure I had read it before, but yeah, I wasn't aware of that going in. One thing about this edition, so you'll notice there's like nothing at the bottom. All of the notes are at the end of each poem. I don't like that. I've never understood why you would do that. Why not put it on the relevant page so you can look at it while you're reading it? I don't know anybody that likes to be sitting there reading something and then have to, flip back and forth between pages to look up and see what that does. I mean, footnotes and everything already break up the flow of the reading. Flipping to another part of the book to see what the heck that note is makes it more likely that I'm just going to not read it, because it's just not worth it at that point in time. But I do like after the notes. So you can see here on Patience an example. So it's goes into biblical sources. So the Beatitudes, Luke, Book of Jonah, and it gives a pretty good rundown of the Book of Jonah in there so that you have all of that context. I mean, most people, if they don't have a Bible, have a phone to where they can get on something like Bible Gateway and read that story. But the fact that it's got the relevant passages, and it has it again at the end of Pearl and all of that. And then at the very end, which I don't understand why this is at the very end of the book. I suppose to make it so there's less preamble to before you get into the poems, but then it goes into a big long thing about the metrical forms and giving examples of the poetry, which I don't understand why that you would put that at the very end. So a lot of head scratching on the formatting of the book, on how they laid it out, but the content itself is fantastic. It's a great place to start when you're interested in reading this poet, because it's got some good information, it's got good examples, it's got a really nice readable translation that tries to retain the meter of the poetry, the rhyme scheme as much as possible. So it's one that will feel like it's readable, and that it preserves some of what this contains. I'm definitely going to be looking for a different copy, and that's nothing against this. It's just I want there to be more in there, more meat. I want it to have all four of the poems. I want it to have actual footnotes at the bottom. I want it to have the facing page translations, like I said. But as a whole, I mean, the works themselves are 5-star, hands down. This book itself, probably a 4-star because of those head-scratching decisions. So if you have not read this yet, or if you haven't read anything beyond Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, do yourself a favor and read the 4 poems. They're fantastic. Pearl is pretty lengthy, but as you can see, I mean, these are short. stanzas. There's just a lot of them. It's got 20 parts, and each part has 5 stanzas within there. So I mean that's a lot of poetry, but it's a very fast read. I mean, you could read any one of these 3 poems in a single sitting. They're longer poems than what you think when you think of poetry, but they're ones that you could definitely do. A little long to do something like a reading video of all of them, although that would be really fun to do a full reading of something like Pearl. Um, so yeah, definitely check them out. Um, I can't recommend him highly enough. The Gawain poet is one of my absolute favorite authors, medieval or otherwise. Uh, the works are just very readable, very relatable still today. I mean, Pearl will yank at your heartstrings, um, because it becomes apparent a couple more parts in that this Pearl that the poet is referring to is a daughter that he lost at a very, very, very young age. Um, and so it'll touch your emotions a little bit, maybe. So definitely check it out, Gawain Poet. Um, this particular version, there's nothing wrong with it. It would be a great starting point for anybody looking to read these for the first time. So thank you for watching.